You know, they always say that truth is stranger than fiction, but every once in a while, you stumble upon a story that's so bizarre, so full of impossible connections, that it completely challenges everything you think you know about how the world works. This is one of those stories. Let's dive in. So, our whole mystery kicks off right here with this foreword from a book. Back in 2005, an author hired an artist to create a painting for the cover of their novel. Simple enough, right? The idea was just to capture the story's eerie, symbolic vibe. But what nobody could have possibly known at the time was that this painting was about to capture a piece of the future. And this is where things start to get really weird. On the left, that's the book cover from 2005. But on the right, that's a birth certificate for the author's grandson, who was born 14 years later, in 2019. The author's claim is absolutely wild. That painting didn't just decorate a book cover, it somehow, someway, predicted this exact event. Okay, get ready for the moment that just breaks your brain a little. When you take a map of the location where the grandson was born and lay it over that painting from 2005, the alignment is just staggering. I mean, look at this. The boy was born on Main Street, and that street connects right to Toluse Street, which is the exact name you can see on the street sign in the painting. This isn't just a close call, it feels like something else entirely, like the story was already written in the stars long before it ever happened. So that's what we're here to unpack, the prophetic painting. How in the world could a piece of art predict a future event with this kind of unbelievable accuracy? So what are we really looking at here? Is this just a 1 in a billion coincidence that we're reading too much into? Is it a genuine, straight-up prophecy? Or could the real answer be hiding somewhere we haven't even thought to look yet? To even begin to understand the painting, we have to dig into the story it was made for. Because the novel, called Tobacco-Stained Prayers, adds a whole other layer of mystery to this impossible prophecy. The book's preface hits you with this line right away, and man, does it set the tone. This isn't just some story somebody made up. It's about an inheritance, a kind of trauma that gets passed down through generations, almost like it's woven into the family's DNA. And when they say written in blood, they aren't kidding. The novel reveals this deeply disturbing pattern, what you could only call a family curse. Check this out. Across 4 generations, the men in the protagonist's family all die at the exact same age, 35. Every single one. Now, this deadly pattern seems to trace back to one person in particular, the protagonist's father, a man named Levi. He's a really troubled guy, and his past seems to hold the key not just to the family curse, but to something way bigger and way more sinister. So, the story takes this sharp left turn into total conspiracy territory when Levi talks about a supernatural object he has, a ceramic skull he calls Eric. He says it was given to him by some shadowy government agent, a real G-man type, who just said, "You'll know when it starts talking." Chilling, right? And this is where the fiction gets uncomfortably close to fact. The program in the book sounds a lot like a real-life, top-secret CIA project called MKUltra. Starting in the 50s, the CIA was doing these secret, totally illegal mind control experiments on its own citizens. It's a dark chapter in history, and it left a lot of destroyed lives in its wake. Okay, so we've got a prophetic painting, a family curse, a government conspiracy. So now we have to ask, what framework even begins to explain all this? Are we talking about demons, aliens, or is this all happening inside the bizarre wiring of the human mind? Well, there are 2 major theories people often turn to for this kind of stuff. On one hand, you have a theological view, which might suggest that powerful spiritual beings, maybe even demons, could be pulling the strings, deceiving people with these big displays of power. Then you have the ancient astronaut theory, which says that non-human entities, maybe from other worlds, have been meddling in human history for a very, very long time. But what if the answer isn't out there at all? What if it's psychological? This quote from Dr. Lawrence Stiller really makes you think. He's talking about ADHD medication, but his point is bigger. What happens when an entire generation's reality is being shaped by outside forces? It's a kind of society-wide experiment. This brings us to a super important psychological concept, apophenia. It's the human brain's tendency to see patterns and connections between things that are totally unrelated. It's a key ingredient in conspiracy theories and paranormal beliefs. So the big question is, Are we actually uncovering some deep hidden truth here? Or are our own brains just tricking us into seeing meaning where there's only chaos?
And, this constant search for patterns can go to some pretty dark places. Take this critique of the law of attraction. Some belief systems can become toxic, twisting into philosophies that actually blame the victim for their own suffering. It's a really important warning for our own mystery here. Are we finding a profound truth, or are we just building a delusion?
So, where does this all leave us? We've got the supernatural, the conspiracy, and the psychological. The novel's conclusion kind of weaves all three together into this final, shocking reveal, what you might call an unholy trinity. The story's climax all comes down to this one final message from the protagonist's father, Levi. He recorded it on a cassette tape right before he died and hid it for years. It's the last piece of the puzzle, a confession that changes absolutely everything. And here it is, his final chilling message. Levi confesses that the family's suffering, this so-called curse of dying at 35, it was never a curse. It was something far more deliberate. We're not normal, he says. We're an experiment. Years later, that confession gets a terrifying echo. The protagonist's 2-year-old son, who has never, ever met her abusive boyfriend, confronts the man out of nowhere and says, "Billy said go bye-bye." Billy is the same name Levi mentioned on the tape, the name of the entity that was watching his family. The implication is just bone-chilling. The experiment and its observer are still active. And that brings us all the way back to that impossible painting from 2005. A coincidence? A prophecy? The ancient astronaut theory might suggest a third possibility, that some messages, some cosmic inheritances, aren't written in stone or ancient texts, but are coded directly into our DNA. So what if the painting, the curse, and the author's real-life story are all just echoes of the same unsettling idea, that the ultimate message we're all looking for is hidden in our own blood?